You ready for this?
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 16th episode of Trollin HGC, a Heroes of the Storm podcast focused on esports, a member of the Trolls.gg podcast network. I'm your host, LiQuid, and I'm joined today as usual by Bahgz. And we have a special guest, a third person, if you will. Not going to go third guy on you, but a guest that actually knows the NA scene really, really well. Does a number of really insightful YouTube videos that if you have not checked out or you haven't watched him do them live on Twitch, you need to do it. And that is HeroPhysio. How's it going, man?
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. Pretty excited to be here, and even more so because you guys are talking about the amateur scene, which I sometimes don't think a lot of people pay attention to, but right now it's the most exciting time when it's getting close to Crucible.
It definitely, it's one of the things that Bahgz and I have talked a lot about this, and it's one of my little, for lack of a better word, I don't think pet peeves is what I want to go with here, but I don't feel like the amateur scene gets quite enough coverage in
We're
any
gonna call
region.
it. I got it. It's LiQuid's crusade. You're on a crusade to shine a light on the amateur scene and the minor regions.
Yes, and that's really like one of the reasons we started this show, was to really make sure that the minor regions and the amateur scene were actually getting, you know, some screen time, if not all screen time, but some screen time to say, hey, here's what's going on in the amateur scene. Here's what's going on in the minor regions. We talk a lot about Latin America, ANZ, Southeast Asia, and Taiwan. Probably not as much as we could if the information was a little more readily available, but we definitely try to cover it. And, you know, you and I have seen each other around in Chair League, and I have to be honest, like, a lot of your NA videos that you've put out are like really good quality videos. So when we were reaching out to Tetcher for EU, I think Bahgz was even the one that brought up, said, hey man, it'd be really cool if we get HeroPhysio on. I was like, yeah, dude, that would be great, because you really know the scene. So I'm glad you can join us today.
Well, thanks for those kind words. Honored that people recognize my name as, you know, someone that's providing something to the scene. So that's really cool.
No problem, man. No problem. And before we jump into news and stuff, I'm going to go over a little bit about our Patreon. We do share a Patreon account with Trolls, or with the Nexus Trolls over at patreon.com/TrollsGG. We use that, all of the money we gather through Patreon, through Twitch, through just straight up PayPal subscriptions or donations, is going straight into BlizzCon swag. In fact, Daz and I placed the order for part 1 of our BlizzCon swag this morning, and we should have that next week. So it's not too late if you want to donate some money, you want to just become a Patreon for maybe 2018 BlizzCon, or you just want to subscribe to us on Twitch for that. But we do share that, and all that money is going towards swag that we can give you guys away if you make it to BlizzCon. And then also we pick a troll of the week every week, and this week, although I don't see him in chat right now, we're using Nabby JM, who is the Dignitas coach and has actually been watching Trollin HGC and the Nexus Trolls. So we're glad to have you as part of our audience, man, and definitely check out some more. All right, with that said, we're going to go ahead and hit a little news bumper and jump into some news.
Tonight, Trollin HGC presents Heroes eSports News and Notes with your hosts, LiQuid and Bahgz.
All right, so this week, some interesting news dropped, and I'm interested to see what you guys think of this. Team Zealots got picked up by Wish Esports, Wish being a kind of like a discount shopping application that you can run on your Android or iPhone device. You know, how do you guys feel about that?
So I'm not familiar with the app at all, like, to be upfront. Right. I guess it's like an overstock thing, like overstock.com. Like, it's just one of those things where you can
kind of similar to that. Yep. You
kind of like pick up like discard, like, or like a Marshalls, but an app, right? Like you go and you pick up stuff on the cheap. As far as like, so I guess the drama with it is there's not really drama, right? It's a good thing pretty much in general, right? But it's the concerns are it's like in the NBA now they're starting to put like the Celtics put like a little GE logo on the jersey, right? So it's we're going from these endemic organizations like Fnatic and Dignitas and promoting the actual game instead of promoting brands that have nothing to do with the game.
Right.
Now we're promoting something completely outside of it, similar to Roll20, but Roll20 was kind of, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Tough.
That's different. Roll20,
no,
I feel
you're
like,
right.
you know,
because Roll20 is D&D, right? So
Right.
it's like kind of like a geeky thing. So that's good. Wish is like a big, I don't want to say big, but it's a large app that a lot of people use that has nothing to do with esports or gaming at all, period, right? Personally, I think it's a good thing. I also understand a lot of people's concerns that it seems like a cash grab by the players. Like, hey, they're throwing money at us to advertise for them. Go for it, right?
Okay.
And I understand that concern where, like, I mean, this sponsorship, they could be a company that doesn't care about the players, right? They don't take care of them at all, minus like, you know, a little bit of money, but mostly they're just using them as a billboard. I understand that concern, but at the same time, Heroes really isn't in a position, especially HGC, where they can just sit and say no to sponsors, right? Because there's just too many teams that aren't sponsored.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sure. Well, how about you, Hero? What do you think?
I mean, from the player's perspective, I mean, they weren't sponsored by anybody and there was no interest. So for someone to come along and say, hey, we're interested, as a player, that's fantastic, right? Anybody that's willing to give you something to do what you already love doing, that's amazing. Would it be better if you were attached to the brand and if you could really stand behind it and sell it and be proud of the brand and represent it? I mean, that would be a bonus, right? Right now, I'm wondering if these guys know what Wish Esports is, or as they get to know it, whether or not they will be able to rally behind this name and say, you know what, this is a great organization. This is a fantastic application. They do amazing work. They're treating us well. I mean, that's over time what we'll see from it. But for right now, I'm going to lean to the positive side. I'm going to say they're supporting the hero scene, which is what we wanted in the first place, was for nearly every team to be sponsored by somebody. And this might even draw more interest. You know, this will draw interest from other sources, not just traditional esports sources. You know, once, you know, if Wish Esports picks this up, maybe next it's Amazon that picks a team up. And that kind of opens the door a little bit, right?
Right. Well, and it definitely, so I understand some of the concerns. And like, if you read the press release, it's very oddly worded. Quick, go download our app type thing. But at the same time, there has to be some merit to, we're bringing in money from outside of what a traditional esports organization would have been. That has to be good for the scene, right? Like, just in theory, that has to be better for the scene. So, I don't know. I think time will tell. It'll be interesting to see if Trent can get an interview with one of them. I mean, Mopsio had asked Trent, what was that? It's got to be close to a month and a half now. You know, how do we get a sponsor? And now they have a sponsor. So, you know, sitting down and discussing it and letting Trent write a blog about it would be an interesting kind of what really happened, and maybe get a little bit of insight into that back end of stuff that we just don't see.
I guess the biggest thing, like you said, time will tell, right? So it's really hard to say what is going to happen, whether this is a good or a bad thing. I think it's a risky thing. I think they had to do it because of the size of the game. They're not in a situation where they are the leader of the pack in online, or sorry, not online, but in MOBAs and leagues in general, like professional esports leagues.
Right.
They are playing the catch-up game, so they have to take riskier plays to make that happen. Something like this, if it goes well, it could really snowball. Like, I mean, we could see other brands coming in and non-endemic esports orgs coming in and picking up these teams, and they can pick them up on the cheap now because it's not a huge league and it doesn't cost a lot, right? So the other thing is I guess the other way to think about it is, so like esports orgs, like Trent said when he was on the show, make money off from their sponsors by themselves being sponsored and picking up teams, and that team getting, you know, the image of their sponsors out there, right?
Right. Now,
when it's just a sponsor, not an org, like cutting the middleman out, like there's that, like the Wish app makes money being the Wish app, right? It only, I mean, it's going to spend money, but really they're just paying for advertising by picking up this team. So there are less barriers to entry. It's not as it's easier for them to make money and picking up a team up
Right.
from HOTS than having to just have like a little name on another brand. You know what I mean? A brand within a. Yeah. So, anyways, I think it's risky, but I think it's good. So,
Okay.
the other thing is Trent mentioned like League of Legends would not have done this, right? Because what they want is they want to promote their game. These brands are out to promote their brand. And that is an issue, but at the same time, if it helps increase the popularity of Heroes, that's a win for Heroes in general.
Right.
So I don't know, it's tough.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair.
I think it's minimal risk for Wish Esports. I mean, for Wish Esports, they put in X number of dollars. It's a short-term investment, right? It's
Right.
either month to month or it's that 6 month. Thanks for this phase. We already got our name out there, and they're getting what, maybe 20,000, 30,000 viewers, new eyes on their application, and if they can convert a percentage of that to regular users on their application, they may get their investment back. And for the players of Zealots, I mean, it gives them a little bit of motivation. It gives them some financial security. It seems like almost a win-win both ways, but I guess that point about promoting the game versus promoting other things, that might be something that the league itself may eventually turn and have a closer look at.
Right. And we'll just, like I said, we'll have to see what happens. But I think at the end of the day, it's good for the scene as a whole to bring more money and more newer sponsors in. But I worry about it being for the wrong reason. Right. Ultimately, that's the thing. Let's jump over to the team. So Team LiQuiuD this morning announced the China Gold World Cup Championship dates. And the prize pool, and that there'll be 8 teams there. It's going to run November 27th through December 10th. So about 3 weeks after, maybe 3.5 weeks after BlizzCon. And it'll be interesting to see what happens based on, the last 2 years of China Gold Cup World Championships have not been friendly to NA competition, or EU for that matter.
I don't think a Western team has ever fared well in the history of Heroes, which is only 2 years, mind you, but has ever fared well over in China. Let's see, like Cloud9 was fresh off winning BlizzCon and went to it was before it was the Gold Club World Championship. It was the Gold Series, I think, the Gold League or whatever.
Yep, Gold League.
And they bombed.
And then broke up because of it. That was
Shortly
the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Right.
So sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, man.
No, that's I was looking for you guys' thoughts. Like, go shoot, let's hear it.
No, I think this time it'll be a lot different. I mean, it's a much stronger European region, and I would say North America is getting stronger. So, there's going to be some really good competition out there. I love the prize setup and the prize pool, how it trickles down. And I think we just need more tournaments. I mean, HGC is amazing, but there's still some people asking for more international kinds of tournaments, bringing together all the teams. We have the Eastern Clash, we have the Western Clash, but this is just another one of those really exciting events where you can bring the whole world together, which I think everybody gets excited about.
Well, those are more fun, right? Eastern Clash is fun, but it's just the 4 regions, and Western Clash the same way. Like, I want all 8 regions together, like going at it. Yes.
Yeah, it should be 8 regions.
I'm like counting it up.
There's 4 minor and
4 minor and 4 major.
4 major.
Right. So I'm like, that's why I'm looking forward to BlizzCon, right? Just because all of the regions will be represented there, and it'll be very similar for the Gold Cup World Championship. All right.
I guess before we get away from it, I just wanted to mention, like, it's probably going to be 8 teams. They haven't announced the number of teams. I went through the whole article twice. I didn't see anywheres. It was 8 teams last year. It's probably going to be 8 teams again this year. Last year, though, it was 6 Eastern teams and only 2 Western teams, which were Dignitas and Astral Authority, which is now Tempo Storm. Like we said, they bombed. But it would be nice if we could get like Fnatic and Dig, Roll20 and Team Freedom over there. At least 4 and 4 for the 8 teams. I don't know if we're going to see that. In a perfect world, they would open it up to be like a 12-team tournament or a 16-team tournament. But based on like the timeline that we have and the fact that the top 8 teams get paid, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. So. No, and it's like everything else, right? They're in it to get money. And at the end of the day, having a bunch of non-Chinese teams in the tournament isn't necessarily the strongest for the brand.
No, you're right. So it's probably going to be mostly Eastern teams with a splash of the Western, probably the top team from each Western region. I will say, though, what I love about it is it's during the Heroes off season. So I'm calling it the off season after BlizzCon, before HGC picks up again next year. So we're going to have something to cover and something to watch.
Right? There won't be that huge amount of dead space, because I can already feel dead space creeping in, because we have playoffs going right now for Open Division. We have playoffs at the end of the week for the major regions. Then we have playoffs for NA Open Division. Then we have Crucible, and then it's, oh man, I guess it's only like 2 weeks before BlizzCon, so it's not so bad. And I'm like going through in my head. I'm like, wait a minute.
What we need to figure out is what we're going to do between post Gold League and pre HGC. I'm sure.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to try and throw down another Creators of the Storm that time. That's what we're going to do. So we'll see, man.
We'll be busy.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who think there's maybe not enough downtime. You know, these guys are giving up every single one of their weekends, and then during the week they're scrimming. So, I mean, for them to get a couple of weeks off might be nice for them. But, you know, as fans, as consumers of it, I could see that you just want more content all the time.
Gotta have that content, man. Gotta have that content.
we mentioned it last week on the show. They need a break. They need an off season, so it'll be good for them when BlizzCon ends. It's just I'm just trying to think ahead about what we're gonna do for this show.
The other thing, though, like, the reality is, even when they have an off season, they're not necessarily off. It's not like they stop scrimming for the most part, right? Like, sure, there will be some break in there, and I'm sure they'll take Christmas off and Thanksgiving off, but for the most part, they're gonna be scrimming a lot during that period. A lot of the teams will, not all of the teams. So we'll see. We'll have to see how that goes. But cool. All right, Bahgz, I'm gonna totally let you run with this part because you wrote the questions.
Okay. If you have anything you want to add, LiQuiuD,
yep,
chime in, man.
I will,
because
man.
this is bare bones here. All right. Hero, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed. Was it 2 weeks ago? No, or last week? You did like kind of like the live Q&A during Heroes, while you basically watching Heroes with fans, with viewers, right? I really like that. I didn't chime in Discord, but I was listening and, you know, asking questions in chat. I was telling LiQuiuD, it's kind of funny. I had this like vision of like I call it armchair HGC, where you like, or like where, you know, like there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on after Sunday's NFL games end, and a similar thing where, like, you know, fans kind of just get together and they shoot the shit for lack of better words, and, you know, over some beers, and kind of like, you know, talk about the game and laugh and joke about the game, instead of like casting it very seriously. They're just, you know, talking while the game's happening, you know. So I really like that. That was, you kind of like, I don't know, you'd like osmosis to my idea onto Twitch. So it was really cool. I was really happy to see that happening, because I don't have the time to make that happen. So it's really cool. So I hope you keep doing it, and I'll make sure to jump in every time you do. Anyways, now to actually dive into the interview, I want the listeners and the viewers to learn a little more about you. So if you could, man, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, my name's HeroPhysio. For those that do follow along on my stream, I've given out the real name. It's Steve Mack. I'm a physical therapist during my daytime. And I picked up Heroes just as a hobby. It was my first MOBA, and I got so into it that it's the only game that I play now. Started off in Wood League, so I had no idea what a MOBA was. And I think there was just so much to learn that it really, really drew me in. And after learning it all, I decided I got to make that grind to Grandmaster. So eventually achieved rank 1, got to Grandmaster Season 1. And then from there was still so much more to learn that I thought, hey, I've got all this knowledge now. Maybe I should put it to some use. So I picked up casting just to try it out. I started casting scrims, started casting my friends' scrims. I actually started casting my own videos or my own games first. That was kind of cringy. But then after casting my friends' scrims, you know, got into Chair League, started casting that, and now I've casted a few other things like Heroes Hype. Now I do some educational content, some analysis work as well. So it's just kind of grown from there, and I really just do it because I enjoy it. It's something that, you know, for me is a hobby, but it keeps me so entertained, and I'm so interested to get into some of the deeper sides of Heroes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What were there any other games you played before Heroes? Just curious. Like I know LiQuiud and I both come from a World of Warcraft background.
Yeah, I was mostly a Diablo. Did play some StarCraft, but that was mostly like custom games, the cannon defense, that kind of thing. Warcraft was not one that I picked up and played a lot. And I was actually more of a console gamer in the past couple of years. So I finally made that jump to PC. And once I jumped back onto PC, it was almost all Heroes.
That's awesome. Now, did you I guess you got in touch with Heroes through Diablo then, or StarCraft? Kind of saw it on the launcher and gave it a try type thing?
It was basically Jim Raynor. I saw him as one of the basic characters, and like, man, I can be Jimmy. So I jumped in, and everyone out there knows if they look at my profile, Jim Raynor is one of my top played heroes still. So I jumped in, I picked him up, and then I just ran around shooting things, being the Marine, living the dream.
That's awesome.
Now I've tried to level almost everybody up. So I try to play all of the characters, and I've got, I think, about over half of them mastered. So it's pretty exciting.
Wow, that's great, man. I guess while we're on the topic of you said you're trying to dive deeper into this. Do you have like any goals with this? It's almost a part-time job now for you with this Heroes community that you're building. Do you have, whether it be doing analysis or coaching for an amateur or a professional Heroes team, or is it just, or is the goal to just try and grow the stream in the HeroPhysio community?
That's a very good question. And when I first started, I didn't know how successful I'd be. I bought a cheap mic, a cheap setup, because I really thought, maybe I'll try it for a month. I don't know how well it'll go, if I'll even enjoy it still. Basically, everything I do it because I enjoy it, and I don't want it to feel like work. There was actually a time where I tried out to be an analyst for one of the HGC teams, and I realized it was going to take a tremendous amount of work to be a full-time analyst for one of the HGC teams, for one of the more serious teams. And so I decided that wasn't the way I wanted to go, was to just do that analysis and the coaching side of things. But in the background, I am helping out some other teams here and there. Nothing too full-time committed. I'm not fully committed to some of these teams, or at least none that I can say. In terms of the stream side of things, I think the community is just kind of building itself. Every time I'm on, we get a lot of really cool people come in. They've got a lot of thoughts of their own to share. And so that's where that Watch HGC with Hero kind of started up, was, I don't want to do anything formal. I'm watching HGC at home. You're watching HGC at home. Let's jump in Discord. Let's talk about it. Because a lot of times I learn a lot just listening to other people talk about it. And it's cool to be able to bounce those ideas off and really just have a good time and enjoy each other's company. I mean, this for me is actually a really great way to meet people as well. I've actually met up with 2 people in real life who have come through my hometown just to have lunch or have some drinks. So I think that's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. I haven't had that happen yet, but that sounds really, that sounds great, man. Kind of like, well, I can't wait. We actually just booked the hotel for the night before we leave, because the airport's that far away.
I'm hoping BlizzCon next year if I can. This year is not going to be a possibility, but I'm hoping, if I'm still around in the scene, BlizzCon next year.
It's a great time. As someone who's been there, man, it's a great time. I would say once in a lifetime, but I'm going for my second time. So I guess the next question I have for you is, do you have a favorite team right now in any of the HGC regions?
See, that's a good question. I mean, I watch a lot of NBA, and when I watch NBA, it's always more about the players than about the teams themselves, right? I don't have any teams in my hometown or even close to my area. I'm up in Canada, so the closest thing is Toronto Raptors. And for the HGC, I tend to, I mean, some people love me for this, but it's Team Expert. Okay. Just because they were one of the first ones to be really creative in their draft and open things up. And I'm one of those guys that thinks every hero is viable. And if you understand your composition to its fullest extent and you can push their limits better than the other team does, that gives you an advantage. So, I mean, Expert now has just been playing more solid than anything else. But, before they were pulling out Butchers. They were some of the first ones with Medivh's, Probius's. I love watching that. That gets me excited.
I mean, if ever there was a team that was going to embrace the odd draft that any hero works, it's a team with ADRD on it. So.
Yeah. But you know what? In North America, Superstars is close to that too. I mean, they're willing to run heroes that are not considered, top meta, top priority. Like you get a Medivh Diablo. I mean, that's on nobody else's radar nearly. I mean, Medivh has started to move his way up, but they're one of the first ones to bring Garrosh out and make it work. And they can run some of these other compositions. So I mean, shout outs to them. I mean, I'm quickly becoming one of their fans. But overall, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think overall, my approach is that I think this is because I'm a physical therapist too, is that I want to see people reach their potential and fulfill their potential. I don't enjoy seeing people struggle or whole teams struggle. I want to see people perform at their best and really their entire team perform at their best and try to push those limits and try to see how great they can be. So, I'm cheering for everybody to play as well as they can so that we can get the best competition we can.
Now, to follow that up with the favorite team, do you have a favorite player? Is it ADRD?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. I mean, he's awesome, right? I mean, he's the draft mastermind. He's the one who's willing to go out and try things. And, he's led his team up to, I guess, top 2 Europe, right?
Yep.
And they were mostly seen as kind of a mid-tier, maybe even at one time, bottom tier kind of a team. And now they're a force to be reckoned with. So, I mean, the vision, the leadership, all of that put together, and then the mechanical skills there too. I mean, he's probably one of the best. But there's a lot of players in NA. I know, people want me to support all the NA players too, and it's hard to just pick one, right? I mean, I'm one of those guys that cheers for people who perform every single week. Consistency, I think, is a big thing. So, if you show up every week and you play your role the way it's supposed to, most of the time it's actually warrior players. They're just really quiet. You look at someone like Breeze. He just shows up every week. He's there. He does his job. He doesn't die. He's got like 124-1 KDA. That's amazing.
I'm not sure I would call Breeze quiet though.
I guess so.
But I mean, I get what you're saying, right? And on the Nexus Trolls, probably 4 or 6 weeks ago, we had a debate whether or not the warrior was like the critical role or whether it didn't really matter. And I took the side of the warrior is critical, specifically because if you get a good, solid, consistent warrior player who's just going to come in, do what he needs to do, and just get it done, it allows the rest of your team to just do what they do best. And you get, traditionally, I don't know, like, I feel like it's almost the warrior is the center on a basketball team. I'm going to use the NBA for a minute because you watch NBA. And he's not usually as flashy as everybody else, right? And just the big dude right in the middle that makes everything else work for everybody else. And I feel like that's a good way to describe it, and a good reason to pick those players as your favorite players if you don't have a favorite player currently.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, and I really like comparing heroes to basketball, and that's where I get my coach fundamentals with Coach Hero stuff from. And so taking that idea of that center there. If you have somebody that dominates an entire area, controls the key, controls the zone, I mean, that fundamentally changes the game. Now, at the same time, there are teams now that are running a lot of a small ball. So is a warrior, 100% necessary? I'll still say yes, because I think if you're playing standard, you need one. Right. But I think there's ways that you can play without it too, which is also really interesting.
We might have to dive into that a little bit more later, because that's one of the things I've been saying for a while is we're getting to the point in the game where a traditional warrior isn't necessarily needed. You can do you don't even necessarily have to do a warrior if you get some tanky enough meleeers, but you almost are at that point where that's not necessary. And you can, Sonya to me is kind of in the air. I feel like she's just a really beefy assassin. Especially with some of the numbers she puts out, but we're getting close to that point where it can be a thing. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, opens up a lot of possibilities.
Like the warrior-less comp that E-Star ran at Midseason Brawl with Illidan. Is that a good example?
Not quite there yet.
All right.
All right, cool.
That's all I have for you, Hero. I don't know if LiQuiud's got anything to add to it.
No,
but...
I mean you covered everything. You know, I would just say, do you plan to continue putting out, like, you started this thing a while ago, where you take a game, and you kind of, I want to say deconstruct it, but you kind of dig into it and you do analysis on it, right? Do you plan on continuing that going forward? Are you thinking about letting that one go? Like, you've done a lot of different types of videos, a lot.
Yeah, I've just done a whole bunch, and in some ways it's almost like I'm experimenting with content. You know, I've done patch note reviews, balance patches, you know, tested out PTR things. We've done game analysis, game reviews, casting,
Tier lists.
Tier lists, analysis of just standings and points, and, you know, predictions for things. So I think I'm just trying everything out to see, you know, what I enjoy the most. The game breakdowns and the analysis seem to be something that people are really interested in, where we can slow things down. And when I was doing the HGC Wide Open, that series was really interesting to me because I could take each team and go into their profiles, find out what certain players were playing, then go into a game and find out how well they were working together with their compositions, where their strengths were, where their weaknesses were. I think that kind of analysis is really interesting. It's time consuming, and it does take a while to do. But I mean, for me, if I find it interesting, sometimes I get going and I can't stop. As far as, you know, picking up, you know, random games to analyze, sometimes people will go ahead and ask me to do one, and if I feel like it, and if I like your smile or something, then I'll go ahead and do it. But it's really just, you know, if I feel like it at the time, I'll do it, and if I don't, then, you know, I don't feel any pressure to continue something that I'm not interested in. But
cool,
good for you, man. That's good.
Yeah, it's a good way to live, right? You gotta enjoy what you're doing, otherwise you get burned out and then you don't want to do it anymore. Nobody wants to end up in that situation. So cool.
Like raiding in World of Warcraft.
Like raiding in World of Warcraft. That's a great way to look at it. All right, cool. Anything else, Bahgz?
No, that's all I got.
All right, well, let's jump some results.
So now the hook is going to help out, and we're going to see Stitch's fall as well. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. It's the 1-for-1 trade as we once again have the Dragon Blade used on the side of Genji. He's trying that in. Dashes out, sail yellow.
That was just about the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's a dance party, and you're invited.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HGC Western Clash.
All right.
Whoops.
Sorry about that. We got a little distracted. All right, bumper's over, and we're gonna jump into some results. So China blew my Master League predictions up this morning. I'm still waiting for Master League to actually record the 4 games. I only got 2 right and 2 wrong. But the one did 2-0 Beyond the Gaming today, which was kind of crazy. I did not expect to see that. They surprised me. And then over in Korea, we had Tempest 3-0ing Blossom. This was last week's, obviously, and last weekend. And then Miracle barely beating out RRR 3-2. Black, of course, finishing up their regular season undefeated with a 3-1 victory over Mighty, leaving them at 14-0. And then L5 defeating Raven 3-0, setting up a tiebreaker with Tempest. I got up early to watch this game, and it was actually... I can't decide if I was... happy I did that or disappointed, because it went 3-0 straight up to L5. Like Tempest looked okay the first 2 games. The third game they just kind of got knocked out. I don't know, did you guys see those games?
So I didn't get up early like you did, but I did wake up in time to catch game number 3, and then I was able to rewind and watch the first 2.
Okay.
And same thing, like it was a little disappointing to see that it was a quick 3-0. Considering how like competitive the previous sets had been.
Right.
But to be fair, like the first 2 games were really close.
Yes.
So, and it just like I feel like game 3 could have been close as well. It just kind of came down to Swoy was like L5 had the playmakers on their team making plays that day. Like Swoy's Malfurion was really top notch in that game 3, and it made a big difference.
It seemed like they were all on point in all 3 games, even though the first 2 games were closer. It seemed like everybody on L5 was just playing the way that we expect them to play, and Tempest couldn't quite get it done. Hero, did you see those games?
You know, I've been falling behind on my international scene. I didn't catch those ones. It would have been great to watch those ones, but judging by, the way you guys are talking, after losing 2 games, it's tough to get the momentum back on your side like that, especially when you're going up against a team is very strong.
Right.
It's hard to rally back from that. I'm just looking at the drafts right now too, and just judging by the drafts too, I think that last one, they just kind of threw everything out there and wanted to try something different. And most of the time when you're down 2 games, that third one, that draft becomes so important that sometimes you mess up because you're overthinking that final draft because it's your last chance.
That's a really good point. That's something I never really thought about, to be honest with you, to put you in the player's shoe, right? So you're down, your back's against the wall. And so you're putting 110% effort into that draft because Heroes is such a draft-oriented game where where games are really decided in the draft a lot of the time. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and it was an interesting comp that they were trying to run too. I feel like the struggle with Malthael in that comp specifically is just with only Tyrael as your frontliner, you don't have a lot of CC to protect the Malthael or even the Gul'dan, who's a weaker target. Yeah, you have Lucio and you have Rhaegar with the double support, but I love Tyrael as much as the next warrior player. He just doesn't have the CC for that.
Yeah, what I usually look at, like when I do analysis and things and content like that, is I'll look at the draft and I'll try to predict how the team fights will go and how the phases of the game will go. So if you look at, the first phase, 1 to 7 pre-heroics, and then you have your heroics, and then the mid game, and then the late game team fights. Like looking at this draft already, you can tell slow damage. Yes, they've got some AoE. Malthael wants them to all cluster up, but they don't really have any CC to lock them all down, so they can disperse, they can disengage. And then wave clear is at least equal on both sides, if not better, on the L5 side. In terms of shrine control too, you've got Johanna who holds up the front, Sonya who's on there the whole time. Everything looks like it goes in L5's favor.
Right. One like Sonya on Infernal Shrines, you can 4-person push and just leave Sonya on the shrine if you want to, right? Like so it'll be interesting. They were good games. The first 2 were extremely close. It just, I don't know, that third game, it just didn't go the way it needed to for Tempest to even have a leg to stand on. Over to EU, we did have Dignitas 3-0ing Tricked eSport, which I did not see happening. I think I called that game much closer. I thought Dig would win, but not 3-0. And then Bahgz' note here. Only one of those games did Mene get on Kel'Thuzad. So, and that's true. That was
disappointed, man. Yeah.
I expect we'll see more of it at BlizzCon, honestly, or maybe even at the playoffs.
We'll see. They just nerfed him a little bit, and I think that he wasn't like. I think his lack of mobility. We won't. I don't know if we'll see him that often. Again, we're not really in a mage meta. And it's just that's the vibe I think I'm getting from the players and the casters. So we'll see.
Yeah, and Mena is more comfortable on some of the other mages, Jaina, and Dig's actually getting back to what they were really good at. They're returning to their old form. This 3-0 for me was almost not surprising because Dig has kind of returned to their old strength. Whether it's the coaching, whether it's just a new mentality or this goal to get to BlizzCon that they've been focused on, they're getting back to their old strength. Are they good enough to challenge Fnatic? I guess, it depends how BlizzCon goes, but if they have a good bracket and they have a good run, that would boost their confidence.
Well, you know what's really a shame is they played Fnatic that first week back from the Clash, and I wish that matchup would have happened later in the season, just because Dig's kind of really, like you said, they've been rounding into form post-Clash. They didn't qualify for the Clash. They made some changes, and now it seems like they finally they're firing on all cylinders now, and we're not going to get to see them play each other until BlizzCon. If they get to play at BlizzCon, because I don't believe they do a round robin at BlizzCon, so they might not even face each other in the bracket.
Week 9 is where we would have wanted to see that game, right? Like that was
with everything else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That was the week, and it would have been excellent to have Fnatic Dig. It just didn't work out that way. Going further down the list, though, we do have Team Expert 3-0ing Team LiQuiud. I expected that. LiQuiuD is on its long goodbye. I mean, they'll survive this time around, but they need to figure something out in the offseason because clearly it's not working for them. Zealots 3-1ing Team Good Guys. I expected the win. I thought they would 3-0 Good Guys. BKB. I love BKB. Everybody that watches this show knows that's the case. I did not expect them to take a game off Zealots. I should have, given that Zealots' performance the week before was not the best in week 9, but they squeak by and get out of the Crucible. And then Fnatic 3-0'd Playing Ducks. I mean, that was... I feel bad for the Playing Ducks, but that was a given. Like, you can't go into the last week of the season playing the best team in EU and be like, what? Like, you're going to lose. So, yeah.
I think the most surprising one in there for me is the Team LiQuiuD loss, that 3-0. I mean, Team LiQuiuD, for whatever reason, when they get into some of those matchups, it's either 0-3 or 3-0. Like, they're kind of one extreme or the other. They show up, they play some amazing games, or they're just out of it. Like, they don't show any signs of, making it a 3-2 or pushing it the distance. So do they have to make some changes? I mean, they've got a coach, they've got their team together, they've been working at it for a while. Whether they have to change, whether it's their hero pool that's holding them back, or if they have to change their entire draft strategy and their approach. I think I'd still look out for them in this phase. I mean, there is still that chance that they can take that third spot and come back with new strategies. They're boot camping. They may be able to take on Team Expert in this phase, but I'm probably going to be more looking at them next phase as returning to form.
Yeah, I know they're boot camping. I just struggled to see them getting by Expert at this point, right? I can't see that happening. Well, first they have to get by Tricked before they can get by Expert, right? And
we'll talk about it more later.
Yeah, you're right. We'll get down there.
I don't want to spoil it.
That's all right. I'll wait. I do want to throw one other thing out there, a little unrelated to this, but not. Arcaner actually flies to the UK today to start all over and become an EU Heroes of the Storm player. I know we've talked about that a lot.
Him and Jay Street, man.
Previously.
Jay Street.
Well, Jay Street won't leave until after BlizzCon, right?
No. He's going to Canada in like a week or 2 weeks.
Right. But he's still playing with.
Oh yeah, yes.
He's not free
agent
yet.
They're both making the same journey. Just one's going to NA and one's going to EU.
One's going to EU, right? So Jay Street going to Canada. Arcaner's actually on the plane, or he just landed, one or the other. He just tweeted about it. Actually, given time zones, he's probably leaving shortly because it's tomorrow in Australia right now.
So confusing.
I hate time zones. All right, so moving on to NA. All right, so Gale Force 3-1 Superstars. I have to be honest, we talked about this game a lot last week. I picked Superstars to win this. I thought Gale Force might pull it together, but was really hoping for a Superstars win here. That did not happen. Sorry, Super Dave. Roll20, though, 3-0ing Space Station Gaming, even though it was a Space Station Gaming without Equinox, who was not able to play because he did not have a extra set of his prescription glasses. All right.
It's the ultimate esport injury.
I have to... Okay.
Right?
So I have complained before about... If this is your job, you should have 2 internet connections. You should have all these things to, like, be prepared. Okay? If your job relies on you being able to see a computer screen, you should definitely have a second pair of prescription glasses. Like, I get that you may not be able to get a second internet connection. That's fine. You should have a second pair of glasses. I could be completely off, but, like... Dude, really? Come on, Equinox. Like, you're getting paid and you have a sponsor. Like, you should be able to have an extra pair of prescription glasses. I'm sorry. Like,
Schizo brings up a good point too. Like, they were the players were all in different roles. Like, Casanova was playing like Genji. Like, right. It was weird. It was weird. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's tough to say. But maybe were they already locked into their seed at the time? I'm not 100% sure. So
yeah, I think. I think this week might have been one of those weeks where a lot of teams, didn't feel that pressure because the majority of the seedings were done. But at the same time, I think this speaks a lot about the professionalism, the preparation. This could be either on the individual, the manager, the organization. Everybody has to keep themselves accountable, right? In a professional sports setting, like an NBA team, you have to make sure that you go through your pregame routine. Everything is good to go. And when game day shows up, you're ready for game day.
See, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you are a professional player at this point. You like, how do you not have a pair of glasses? Like, dude, it doesn't matter what you look like. They can be the ugliest, cheapest pair of glasses you got. You need to see the screen. Like, that'd be like LeBron saying, I can't play today. My Nikes are ripped. Right? I don't even know if he's Nike still, but assuming he's Nike, my Jordans are ripped. I can't play the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, what?
Yes. I mean, to be fair, LeBron makes a lot of money, and Equinox is, they don't make a lot of money.
No, they don't make a lot of money. You're right. I can agree with the fact that they don't make a lot of money. But like, your job like requires you to be able to do it. So you should have a pair of glasses. Like, I don't know. I'm stuck with that. I'm sorry.
That's all. I hear you, man. Yeah, it's tough.
All right. All right, just answering chat real quick. Okay. Let's go back and keep going. So that was Roll 20 3-0ing Space Station. Lag Force 3-0'd Even in Death. I had my hopes up for Even in Death, but really they were just hopes. Going through it further, Team Freedom 3-2 Tempo Storm. I really had my hopes up for Tempo Storm. They looked like they were getting it together in that series. And Game 5 did come down towards the end, but they just couldn't quite get it done. Thoughts on either of those two?
Tempo looked a lot better than they have.
Right.
They seem to be kind of stepping in the right direction, which is a good sign for the playoffs. So, and the Game 5 was like edge of your seat nail biter the entire time.
Yes.
I thought like so Team Freedom had Tempo to was 44-42% on their core, but
Right.
were stuck defending theirs because Tempo was applying so much pressure at the end of that match. Eventually they were able to just go all in on the core and take it down, but for a while there, for probably almost over 5 minutes straight, it just seemed like Team Freedom was on their heels, even though they had everything on the map in their advantage. It was crazy. It was a really, really great set.
It was. The amount of back and forth in that game was excellent. It was probably my favorite game of the weekend. If not favorite, it was very close to it. Tempo.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It was definitely close, and I think that's a good sign for Tempo because, I mean, for a long time, people are actually wondering if they're going to make any changes to their team. But after, such a strong showing against top 2 team, this may mean that, they have a better chance at going to BlizzCon now. I know that's probably going to come up a little bit later, but I think it's a good sign. It's a good direction for them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And then over in Latin America, we did have 6 Cents knocking out Red Canids early on, which I was happy to see, setting up 6 Cents in the grand final bracket with a 1-game advantage. And everybody's thinking, okay, well, Red Canids is going to finish its way through the bottom bracket, get back into the top, and then we're going to see 6 Cents versus Red Canids again. And Red Canids was like, yeah, we've had enough of this. And if I remember correctly, they 3-0'd him. No, they 3-0'd him playing it, right?
Essentially, it was a best of 5 where 6 Cents had the 1-game advantage.
Right.
But they essentially 3-0'd him. They won 3-1. The 6 Cents did not win a physical game in that grand finals.
Yes, which was made me sad. I had high hopes for 6 Cents. They did just change sponsors. They went from Thunder Awakened to 6 Cents. And I was really hoping we would see someone other than Red Canids hit hit BlizzCon this week, or not this week, but this year, and it's close, but they couldn't quite do it. They couldn't follow through on the original game that they threw down. I am still disappointed that the only way to watch it is Spanish or Portuguese, like we really do. Blizzard, the minor regions need to have an English-speaking stream if you want to encourage people to follow the minor regions.
I think I know a guy who does some casting.
Right?
Yeah, right. Dude, just throwing out some feelers. So it's funny because like they'll have J-How and Babel cast SEA. Right? They fly J-How out there to do that.
But let's talk about that. All right, so let's talk about how that happens. They don't even have to do that,
though. They could cast it similar to how they cast China. They just get a clean feed from LATAM, right? And then have someone from NA or EU cast it, just like Tetra and Kendrick do for China.
We're sitting here, right? And HeroPhysio, there's a Discord you could join to ask to do that, and they'd probably let you do that because it's encouraging even more. Copa America has its own Discord that you can join, and you can ask to be an English caster, and they'll give you a clean feed, and you can go and you can cast it. That's how a lot of the minor region stuff is getting done. Southeast Asia, Babel was already casting it, and he wanted J-How to come and cast it with him, and they worked out a deal with Blizzard where J-How got to go do that. It's really like it's on the person that wants to cast it to go and seek out that organization and seek out Blizzard and say, hey, I will do this for you. And then go and get it done. Right. So it's absolutely, if it's something you want to do, man, it's like, it's out there and it's possible. Obviously there's nothing left this year to do because ANZ is going to be cast in English. But next year, if you're looking for it, the opportunities are out there, or any caster that happens to be watching, right? The opportunities are out there. You just, if there's one thing I've learned about this scene, it's very much a make your own opportunity scene. So like, that's just the way it is. And you gotta hustle, but if you hustle, you can be doing something that you never thought you'd be doing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I'd be going to BlizzCon, but I'm going to BlizzCon. I definitely, when I started playing this game, did not think I'd be on 2 podcasts talking about it, but here I am, man. Like, you make your own opportunities. I love it. I love what I do. Like, yeah, just run out and do what you want to do if you want to get involved.
Then you can invite J-How to your basement and start casting heroes, right?
Right? For sure.
I'm like, yeah, I would do that. In fact, I did invite J-How to stay here during the hurricane if you wanted to drive this far north. I have no problem. I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I just want you to know that I told J-How he could stay here if he wants to come this far north. She's like, all right.
All right.
We would have had stories about that trip. All right, so let's jump into the confirmed teams for BlizzCon right now. You know, this is a running list, so some of these are repeats if you've been following for a while. Southeast Asia definitely has Deadly Kittens going. They were the first team to qualify for BlizzCon 2017. We have Soul Torturers defeating Team Facecheck to take the Taiwanese spot. Red Canids, like we just discussed, took the Latin America spot. Right now, over in HGC China, only SPT is guaranteed a spot. The other teams are vying. They have 2 more days to go, tomorrow and Wednesday. Check out those games. Kendrick, Swish, and Tetra are hosting them. They are actually a lot of fun to watch. I prefer that 2-game set over the best of 5 that we have, but that's a different story for a different time. Korea, number 1 seed is MVP Black, and L5 did secure the number 2 seed. And over in the EU, we have Fnatic in the number 1 spot, Dignitas in the number 2. Rounding out NA, we have Roll20 in the number 1 and Team Freedom in the number 2. And this weekend is the ANZ finals, 9 p.m. Eastern Friday night when they will start. Yes, because that's the next day. Yep. So check those out. Those should be great games as well. Something to kind of jam in between the playoffs, I think. Watch some playoff action, switch over to some ANZ action.
It's going to be a crazy weekend. I'm glad I've got the weekend off for this.
Okay, so if Bacon were here, he could talk about this. When this situation happened during Phase 1, Part 1, I got like 4 hours of sleep this weekend. Because it's like HGC all day. You know, when I sleep between Korea and EU. And then you stay up, you watch EU and NA, and then when NA ends, ANZ is on, and then when ANZ ends, Korea's back on. So like you can legitimately do close to 24 hours of HOTS watching. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that. I've started watching a lot more VODs, but if you're crazy and you want a challenge, I challenge you to watch all the HGC action live, and let's see if anybody can pull that off. Anybody. If any
that sounds
of you,
like a cool stream event.
You know what? If any of you do this and you can send me proof, I will give you some BlizzCon swag early. I will ship it to you. But you have to have good proof. Like, I mean, quality proof of you watching 24 hours worth of Heroes of the Storm over the whole weekend. So that's Friday and Saturday, not just one day or the other. So, all right, challenge dropped. Let's go into Crucible. So in China, HOTS Lady is going to be relegated. We're still waiting on the second team to join them. But Crucible teams over in Korea, we have RRR and Raven. In the EU, we have Team Good Guys and Playing Ducks, and in NA, Even in Death and Lag Force are the teams going into the Crucible. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna ask a question that you do not have on your list, Bahgz. And that is, from each of you, if you had to pick a team in Korea to challenge in the Crucible, which one would it be? And we'll start with HeroPhysio.
Ooh, I haven't been watching the bottom teams too much. I usually just stick to the top teams just to see their meta. So,
okay,
you know what? At this point, I don't know either of them well.
Okay.
So I would have to do some homework on that. But if I did my homework, I'd have a pretty good answer.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Bahgz, you don't get to skip out on this one. Which one would you pick?
I would pick Raven. It's they've performed poorly in 2 phases. RRR has shown promise. They just went 5 with Miracle for what it's worth.
Yep.
And they're freshest to the scene, so I'd like to see them hang around for a little bit longer and see after getting 1 phase under their belt if they can, build on that and improve. So I would pick. And so if I was one of the amateur teams in Korea, I would pick Raven. That's what I would do. Okay.
All right. Fair enough. Let's go over to EU. Team Good Guys and Playing Ducks. Same questions. Now, do you know these 2 teams, or do you not know these 2 teams?
I know them a bit more. Okay. It really depends on who comes up. I think if it were me, I'd probably go up against Team Good Guys. Playing Ducks have taken some really, really tough games. I think if it were my team, I'd go up against TGG.
Okay. Bahgz? Playing Ducks, again, looks like a little bit of a hotter team, so I would probably avoid them. They have looked like the stronger of the 2 teams as well. So probably going to lean towards Team BKB and Bros. Team Good Guys. That's probably the team I'm picking.
All right.
That's what
look, I mean, ultimately, if you're picking a Crucible team, you're picking the team that you think you can beat. So you're definitely going to pick the weakest team. Right now, in EU, that looks like Team Good Guys. Right? I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, it's not anybody being harsh to anybody. That's just reality. And so you got to go after the team who looks weaker, and that's going to be Team Good Guys. Fligs a Duck, you saying Playing Ducks might be losing its sponsor. That would suck. But after the performance they've done this season, it wouldn't surprise me either. All right, NA. We have Even in Death and Lag Force. This is a real challenging pick. Go.
They just played each other this weekend. I mean, you know who the stronger team is. You know who is at the bottom of the standings. I don't think there's really much competition here. Even in Death, will most likely go to the first place. Will go up against the first place in the NA Open Division playoffs. So,
all right.
You got to go Even in Death, man. Now, like they look like they've improved since they've made the HGC. They've had moments of brilliance where they've almost taken games off of tempo, and they did take the game off Roll20. Lag Force is just, the talent on that team is too much. While it's not always cohesive and they make you want to facepalm all the time.
Right.
They have looked better since the clash, post clash, right?
Yep.
And post losing their sponsor, they've looked a lot better, and they just 3-0'd Even in Death. So clearly, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say they are clearly the better team. So you got to pick Even in Death if you're coming up from the NA HGC NA Open Division.
Okay, so while I think pragmaticist is the right word I'm looking for here, says yes, you definitely have to go even in death. I feel like Crowan would definitely, and McIntyre would definitely enjoy beating down Lag Force. I just feel like they would. Like, just they would enjoy the thought that we came out of Open Division and we spanked Lag Force and kicked them out of HGC.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but that's, other factors. That's more risk than is necessary. These guys are playing for a salaried position, spot in HGC again. I mean, this is exposure for their sponsorship. Yeah. And some of these teams, I'm sure, like Heroes Hearth, probably has some kind of stipulation about their sponsorship contingent on them making HGC. So if they don't make HGC, what happens to them?
No, and I agree, right? And so that's kind of where I was going, right? Like, you almost have to pick even in death, but like, those two would it would be cathartic for them to just spank Lag Force and be like, yeah, what's up? You guys both, we both got kicked off of a pro team and we're back. That feels good, right? But yes, I totally agree. Like, if you're in that position where you have to say, we have to win this to get into HGC, you pick the weaker team 100%. You can beat Lag F later on down the road, assuming they make it through Crucible, which they probably will, right? So yeah. Okay. All right, so we only have one thing to really preview outside of the playoffs, which we're going to discuss when we get down a little bit further, and that is the ANZ finals. So don't forget, those are on Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Over in the amateur scene, the EU Open Division playoffs have been running. They started today, and they will go the next 2 days, right? Tomorrow and Wednesday. So far eliminated from the Open Division chance is Run It Down, which is actually, I believe they were 4th, and I knew I shouldn't have erased that. 3rd. This is what happens when I erase my own notes before looking at it. And sorry guys, Myths, Legion, Hots. So both of those teams eliminated so far in the winners bracket finals. We do have Leftovers and Polska Pamięta. The winner of that will then wait in the grand final for the winner of the losers bracket, which is mostly going to be played tomorrow. I think that's what Grubby was saying earlier. He's going to be following losers bracket to get that stuff through, and grand finals, of course, being on Wednesday. That'll give us number 1 and number 2. Conventional wisdom says Leftovers win, and man, it looks like it might be a toss-up for that second place finish, the way teams are winning and losing at this point.
So I guess going into this, we would have said probably Bushido, right?
Yeah.
But struggling at the most inconvenient time possible.
Right.
It's like the only team that would really surprise me getting that second place spot would be Eat Kebab. But Always Lucky, She's Icing, Bushido, or Polska, any of those teams coming in second, not a surprise at all. It is literally a toss up in that region right now. That's how deep EU is. It's great.
Right.
Yeah, they're really close. I mean, you see a 6th seed up in the winners bracket right now, taking on the 1st, and that even then is still maybe not guaranteeing that the 1st place seed will go through. Like, that is something that I'm pretty sure we won't see in the NA, but in EU, I mean, that looking at the players on Polska, not surprising.
Right. And man, Leftovers Polska is going to be a great game. I look forward to watching that game. I do think Schießheisen had a rough time against Leftovers when I was watching it earlier. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them down in the losers bracket. They're playing Bushido eSports right now, and they play the winner of Eat Kebab Bros versus Always Lucky. Always Lucky, another team that actually looked like they were doing decent, but then just ran into Schießheisen and got 2-0'd right away. So it's going to be interesting to see how these shake out. They're so close that any team could go either way. Like, it's not when we get into NA, I think there's a stark difference between NA and EU and who's close versus not. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, but definitely check that out if you guys can tomorrow and Wednesday on twitch.tv/follow Grubby. Definitely worth watching, to be honest. All right, so I'm going to skip the NA Open Division standings only because we're going to go into it about 2 minutes. And I'm just going to point out that NGS, the Nexus Gaming Series, is currently running. Heroes Lounge Season 5 is still open for signups. It's going to start soon. Chair League is rolling through its playoffs pretty solidly, and next week are the finals. So this week are the semifinals. And Heroes Hype Tempo Storm Season 3 is like in full bore. I believe this is week 4 of that series. Check those out Wednesday nights, especially since we won't be on at 9 p.m. when it starts over at twitch.tv/heroeshype. All right.
Now the meat and potatoes of the show.
Right. The whole point to getting this group together to go over NA Open Division playoffs, much like we did with Tetcher last week. So real quick, just so everybody has the standings, and the bottom two, like, it crushes me that that's the number of points required to get into the top 8 compared to EU. But number 1, we have Heroes Hearth with 720 points, the odds-on favorite to take the whole thing. Number 2, Donkeys R Us with 540. Number 3, Imported Support with 525. Number 4, Operative Esports, the old Flame is Lame team with 345. Although, quick point to everybody, they did have a roster change 2 weeks ago on the 18th. So keep that in mind when you think through. Well, probably the week before the 18th, but the 18th was the first Open Division match where they had the new roster going. Team Numerix in 5th place with 255 points. Trademark Gaming in 6th with 120 points. UNT Eagles with 90 points in 7th, and Reprot in 8th place with 70 points. If you contrast that to EU, though, like, it's weird. There's, like, you have to go down to number 10 to get into double-digit points, right? So it's kind of crazy how less close it's been with Heroes Hearth being so dominant. I think they've won like 6 out of 8 cups. I don't have it up in front of me, so forgive me if I got that wrong.
They actually finished with the same amount of points as leftovers, but they won more cups. But the biggest takeaway from NA versus EU is just how consistent the top 4 or / top 5 teams were in NA. And I'm going to say top 4. Like, Team Numerics really came on strong and are going to be my dark horse in the NA Open Division right now. But the top 4, Flame is Lame, Imported Support, Donkeys R Us, and Heroes Hearth, have pretty much been the teams for NA Open Division this phase. I was really disappointed when Players Unknown played in the first 2 cups and then just dissipated. But it's been those 4 teams, and then lately Team Numerics, and that's it.
One and interesting thing, and then I want to get HeroPhysio's thoughts on this, but Team Numerics has been playing Heroes Hype and also doing a good job over at Heroes Hype, which is another, like a lot of the Open Division teams do, Open Division Monday, Tuesday, Heroes Hype on Wednesday. They have been slowing down a little bit on that with it being so close to playoffs, but like that's consistently what we see. And Team Numerics right now is way out in front with 26 points in the Heroes Hype.
Operative also plays in Heroes Hype as well, correct? So it's those are kind of like the two big dogs in that competition.
All of the teams last Heroes Hype Tempo Storm season played in both. Every team that's in the top 8 Open Division right now also played there, but they are no longer doing that. So, all right, Hero, what do you think?
All right, before I get too deep into it, I do want to bring up first, Heroes Hearth would have more points if they didn't have to make their funny subs in the middle of it, because they were hold it down, then they had to be held it down, then they were able to switch it back over, and they had to make some of those changes. They would have had more points. Players Unknown, after winning just a single cup, would have had 120 points, so they would have already been up there, and they became defunct, so Players Unknown, unfortunate. They were the first team I did my HGC wide open on, so I feel bad. And then Firm Handshake was also at about 200 and I believe 10 points, and they became defunct. TQ were at 130, and they also dropped out. And then there was LOLOL,
Wait, we can't
which
talk
had
about
100.
Go ahead,
Which
go
had
ahead,
about
finish.
like 170. So I think there are all these other teams that had all of these points. But you know, whether it was because they didn't foresee themselves getting into the HGC realistically, or a whole bunch of other factors, you know, that caused teams to disband. There were so many teams that had more than these 90 points. I was surprised to see UNT Eagles and Reprot get those last two spots.
So interestingly, I can talk about two of the teams that would have had more than 90 points but did not finish. So I currently manage the team that was TQ. And I was managing TNG before they disbanded. TNG had a rough open division night, and three of the players were just like, I can't handle the pressure anymore, we're out. And then their points went away. TQ replaced them in the standings, basically, because they were very similar teams, and TQ had enough points that when TNG disbanded, TQ moved up into that place. TQ also lost a few players and has been going through tryouts. So actually, either this week or next week, we'll be going back to Heroes Hype, because obviously we can't do anything about open division at this point. Like getting a roster together and then trying to get in points wise, like the struggle is real. Trying to do that in a short period of time. So they'll go into Heroes Hype, and then look for 2018 open division performance. And you see that, like, I can't tell you the number of teams that are not in this top 8 that I've had scrims lined up with, and they're like, oh yeah, we disbanded, or oh yeah, we kicked 2 people and we don't have replacements yet. Like, a lot of teams are reforming or preparing for the open division playoffs to be done and see what players are on the market looking to join teams and then start over. So it's an interesting time in the open division. If you weren't up in the top 4, a lot of people started leaving teams early, and I feel like they left too early, especially when you look at EU and you can see a top 6 team still in the winners bracket, right? Like, just because you're not in the top 4, if you're made it to the playoffs, that's something to be happy and proud about, and like move forward and see what you can do.
Isn't that like I mean, those teams dropping out is pretty much like the way these teams kind of like come and go and like are here and there and within a night, right? And barnstorming is kind of like the reason why Blizzard is enforcing these stability rules, just so it's just they're
Right.
trying to get these teams to stick together, because it seems like they're just giving up too easily.
Right.
Is that fair? I think that's fair.
I agree.
I think a lot of the teams are looking forward to next season. You know, this season, it's almost like they have it in their minds already that Heroes Hearth is taking one of those spots, so everybody else is fighting for number 2, right?
Right.
That reduces your chances, and that reduces your outlook. It's no longer, you know, I have a chance to take one of 2 spots. It's now I'm just fighting for that last one. So I think some teams have already gotten into that mindset.
Right.
Almost that mindset of defeat where, you know, we're only fighting for one last spot. How good are our chances? And if they're not looking good, try to jump on another team for next phase.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I guess
a good way.
isn't there an argument to be made that, you know, hopping into each open division cup is the experience is worth it, rather than just breaking it up and practicing? Because like, yeah, practice is good for you, and constantly trying to find a combination of players that makes your team better is, I understand, important, but actually getting in there and competing for money is also nice. Even if you don't have a chance to win, you're going up against stiffer competition in an environment where that competition is trying their hardest, where you might not see that in scrims.
So I have 2 things I want to point out. One is what I was trying to say before. I think all I got out was that's a good way, and wasn't the end of my statement. That's a good way to look at what's happening currently. I don't necessarily think that's what should be happening. If you look outside of Heroes Hearth, which is basically like pro level players put together to say, okay, we're going to make it again, right? The better teams have been together for a while. You need to be together and build that cohesive nature, like how well you play together, how you mesh, before you can really do well. If you look at some of the teams that have made roster changes, they struggle for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And these are teams that typically scrim 5 nights a week, at least 4 hours a night, right? That's a lot of play time together if you compare that to like I'm just here to play and have fun. It may not be as much as the pros are playing, but it's still a lot of play time together to get to know each other. I would say, and this is the way we've been looking at it with TQ, rather than jumping right back into a competition, take the time and scrim, because you're going to learn more out of the scrims than you are out of going against a Hero's Hearth for round one and getting stomped. And now you're like, well, what do I do with the rest of my Wednesday night or my Monday night, right? Put your team together, keep your team together, scrim other teams, get better against those other teams, go into a Heroes hype, go into an open division, but with the expectation that we're not going to do great, or we probably aren't going to do great, but we're going to stay together so that we can play better together. It's all well and good to say the Warrior comes out and does his thing and everybody around it can play, but if the Mage and the Malfurion know the ETC is going to power slide through 3 people and drop your Roots, drop your Frost, you're going to get kills, right? But it takes time to kind of learn how to play off of each other. The other thing I want to point out is Fleegs of Ducky's right. There's much less roster turnover in EU Open. If you look at the EU Open, there were 3 teams over the last 6 weeks that have made single roster changes. And I think that's it. I went through looking all the teams, and I think it was 3 teams that made a single player roster change in the last 6 weeks. For the last 3 EU Cups before the playoffs. So it's less than it is here, but there's a lot of dreamers here that think they have what it takes to also make a team and get into HGC, right? So, yeah. I guess I'll leave it at that.
I don't know. It's tough. There's a lot of instability in NA, and I guess that's just how it's been. And hopefully someday we won't be there anymore.
Right.
That's all.
And 5-1-1 has a relatively accurate point that if your goal is HGC, you should be able to get top 4 in a season. I don't know that you need to disband. And this is an interesting conversation that comes up in the HGC NA Discord all the time around, do open division teams need coaches? Do open division teams need managers? Do open division teams need this? Do they need that? Like, what do they really need, right? So I kind of get that, but I also understand that amateur players that aren't trying to make this it's not their job yet, need time to learn to play together, right? And so, it's just one of those things you have to look at.
Yeah, I think with these open division teams, I mean, you're either very serious and your goal is to make the HGC, or you're just playing to get as good as you can. I mean, I'm looking at teams like UNT. They're trying to get as much experience as they can because they're going to go turn around and take this into something like, Heroes of the Dorm. So they're getting this experience, and it's valuable for them. They have to measure up, how good are we? What are we getting punished on? That's the experience that they're looking for. For the teams that are serious about getting HGC and they're not a top 4 team, whether it's individual skill or team cohesion, sometimes what they feel is the best move is to make that roster swap so that they have a higher ceiling to get to, right? If you cut away your weakest link, replace it with somebody who they believe is either better skill or matches with the team better, has a bigger hero pool, whatever it might be, that might just look more attractive, right? The grass is always greener.
Right.
So I think it depends on some of these, lower tier teams or, not top 4, is what are their goals for actually playing? Because I look at some of these and they are Heroes of the Dorm teams that, they're here playing any open division, but I'm pretty sure their real goal or their real target is Heroes of the Dorm.
No, I would agree with that, especially with teams like UNT. All right, let's go and do our Crucible team picks. So, Hero, if you had to pick out of the 8 teams going into the playoffs, who's your number 1 and who's your number 2?
So I'll do a bit of a breakdown here because you already know what the bracket is, right?
Yep.
Heroes Hearth is going to go up against Reprot. That's a solid win. Donkeys RS is going to be UNT. Imported is going to be Trademark. The 4-5, I'm actually favoring Team Numerics as well because of the way they've played, because of Operative's recent roster swap. I think Team Numerics has looked much stronger, and so I think that's going to be the upset there. Okay. 4-5 is not a huge upset. And then you get the 1-4 matchup, which is Heroes Hearth and what will either be Operative or Numerics, but in this case, Numerics. I think that'll be closer than people think. I think Numerics might actually take a game,
Okay.
But Heroes Hearth will still come out of that one. And the 2-3, that'll be Imported and Donkeys.
Yep.
Imported has won the majority of them. Donkeys has won the last one. But of course, you know, when you get to those last cups, the seeding's pretty much decided. In the end, I think Imported is still going to be the stronger team. Not to underestimate Donkeys, though. So it should be Heroes Hearth Imported up into the winner's bracket. Donkeys fighting their way back through the bottom. But that Numerics Donkeys Are Us matchup is pretty interesting too, because Numerics is, again, fairly strong, and they took third place from Donkeys in the last one. So I could see Numerics actually coming back from the losers to face what we are going to assume is Heroes Hearth beating Imported. So now it becomes Imported versus Numerics. I'm still going with Heroes and Imported.
Okay.
All right.
I went the same way, but I think TNC is the dark horse and has a chance to sneak through and surprise some people. If I could pick a third team that had a chance to ending up in the 1-2 spot in the number 2 spot, because I think, I don't know, it's hard to tell. I think Heroes Hearth has the number 1 locked up. But the team that has the best chance at squeaking in would be TNC, and then Donkeys Are Us after them.
I guess for me, it's we are all we're all very cohesive with our picks here. I'm looking for a word. I can't find it right now in my head. Heroes Hearth Imported are going to be my 2 picks, but really, it's close. Like, Team Numerics has really come on strong as of late. Donkeys Are Us have looked really good throughout the entire Open Division season. Flame is Lame / Operative Gaming has kind of fallen by the way. I don't want to say fallen by the wayside, but they've taken a step back. So it's Heroes Hearth. They're in a class by themselves. That number 2 seed, I wouldn't be surprised to see Donkeys R Us or Team Numerics come sneak in and get that number 2 seed, that second Crucible spot.
Yeah.
But I'm going to lean towards Imported support. I'm going to lean towards the team that has more experience. I'm going to lean towards the team that has some big-time playmakers, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right, let's jump into some HGC playoff preview. Since we do have some of that going on. Everybody say hi to Argy in chat. He is confirmed to do statistician work at BlizzCon this year. So congrats, dude. All right, so HGC playoff stuff. We're gonna go through Korea first, and in our show notes, Bahgz has helpfully put all of the brackets, make it easier on everybody. But we have Blossom MVP Miracle in the first round, winner of that playing Mighty, and then winner of that playing Tempest. Hero, if you had to bet, knowing that you follow the upper end, not necessarily the lower end, who do you think is making it through to BlizzCon?
I'm a big fan of Tempest. I think maybe, though, just maybe Miracle might end up coming back all the way. But I think heavily favored is Tempest. I only say that just because Miracle, I mean, their scrim partners are the number 1. So if they change up some of their scrim styles, I mean, they've got the best practice. They're going to have a guaranteed scrim partner. There's always that chance, I think. But Tempest is far and above, much stronger.
Okay.
Last phase, we saw Miracle go on the Miracle run and actually went all the way to the finals where they lost to their sister team MVP Black in the playoffs. It's a shorter Miracle run they need to go on this time, but I don't see it happening. They have really struggled this phase. They lost a couple of their players during the roster swapping after midseason brawl. Blossom would be my dark horse here to actually go to the Korean Grand Finals. I don't expect them to go to the HGC playoffs, though. I expect that to be Tempest. But Blossom is my dark horse. I completely expect him to beat Miracle and then to beat Mighty the following match, but then to lose to Tempest. And I see Tempest going to BlizzCon.
Yeah, I definitely see Tempest going to BlizzCon. I think Mighty might give them a fight for it, but neither Blossom or Miracle is getting by Mighty. It's going to be Mighty Tempest, and then Tempest, I think, is going to end up winning that one. All right, so let's jump over to EU, and we have Zealots taking on LiQuiud, and then winner of that playing Tricked, winner of that playing Team Expert, HeroPhysio. How do you see that going?
It should 100% be Expert, but I'll say 99 just because there's always that chance.
He's biased. Don't listen.
You know, yeah, I'm a little biased. I mean, whoever comes down through the bracket has to go through LiQuiud, and I don't think LiQuiud is going to take this very lightly. LiQuiud will most likely go on to play Expert, and Expert has just, I'm going to say they've played extremely strong against everything LiQuiud has thrown against them. Expert's got international experience. They have a whole bunch of different drafts they can use. I think Expert will be just too tough this time around.
Okay. Bahgz?
Okay, so spoiler alert, I'm predicting Team Expert to make it to BlizzCon. So Team LiQuiud will once again not be going to BlizzCon, or that roster rather, formerly My Insanity, formerly Misfits. But similar to how I saw it in Korea, I see the team coming from the round of 4, making it to the finals of the playoffs. I'm going to lean on the experience and the boot camp and the talent we know that is on that roster. Team LiQuiud, I expect them to beat Zealots. I expect them to beat Tricked. Surprising probably a lot of people because of the tailspin they have been in post-Clash, but to go and face Expert and then lose. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Zealots go that other way. I just don't see Tricked beating either Zealots or LiQuiud in that next round.
All right.
That's my pick.
So, unlike both of you, I think Zealots will take Team LiQuiud. I think Team LiQuiud is on the long decline, and Zealots, fresh off of their brand new sponsorship by Wish, is going to win and go up against Tricked. That one will be close. 50-50, take your pick. Neither one of those teams is beating Team Expert, though. Expert's going to I'd love to see Zealots now Wish take it all the way and go to BlizzCon. Like, that would be huge. So huge. But I do not see them getting by Expert. Expert feels like they are right where they need to be, and I think they will go the rest of the way. All right, NA. We have Space Station Gaming versus Superstars. Winner from that takes on Tempo Storm. Winner from that takes on Gale Force Esports. Go.
I think for this one, Tempo needs to earn their way there. They have to beat GFE, and they have to do it pretty convincingly. Otherwise, there's nothing there that says GFE won't make it. I think Tempo really needs to find some way, whether it's through their coaching, whether it's through, their scrims, their mentality. They have to make sure that they actually earn their spot this time around. Otherwise, I'll say GFE.
Okay. Bahgz?
This one's tough. It doesn't matter. So NA is a little different from the other regions in my opinion. It doesn't matter if Space Station and who's either or who comes through that round of 4 match. They're going to lose to Tempo, personally. And then it's going to come down to Tempo and GFE in the HGC playoffs finals, fighting for that spot to go to BlizzCon. I'm going to lean towards GFE because I believe in the talent on that team. But it's a team that, if they get behind in that series, I don't think they're capable. It sounds crazy, but I don't think they're capable of coming back. It's the team that they tilt, right? Like they will fall behind in a set, and then they'll draft something crazy, and it's just there's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
But that being said, I have faith that GFE will defeat Tempo and go to BlizzCon. Surprisingly, because Tempo has looked a little bit better. They looked a lot better when they took Team Freedom to 5 this past weekend. So
out of respect for my boy Dave, I am going to say Superstars wins in the round of 4 and then loses to Tempo Storm. That one's 50-50, right? Like Space Station Gaming or Superstars, one of them is going to win. Neither team's getting by Tempo Storm again. I think so one of two things is going to happen, right? Tempo Storm is either going to play well, like they started to look last weekend, or it's going to be the Tempo Storm of the beginning of this part of this phase, and they're going to play like garbage. I want to say they've gotten that out of their system. They're back to Fury on the main tank role. They're back to like playing the way that they want to. They should be playing. the team looked like it was firing on all cylinders this weekend, or at least close to that. So I want to say they win that and they go up against Gale Force. Gale Force is like, it would be interesting to have Gale Force Tempo Storm, because both of those teams over this part of phase 2 have been so like hit or miss. Like there are times where they play great, and then there are times where they play like garbage, and like they forgot how to play, or they roll swap everybody around, or they do something else that's stupid and they draft weird. So like I'm so frustrated with both of those teams, I can't even explain it. It's like, guys, you're professionals and you're playing like garbage. So you know, it's like, to me it's 50-50. I think either Tempo or GFE. It just depends on whether or not Gale Force is tilted, whether or not Tempo Storm's playing the game they want to play. Like, it really, out of all of the games I've said are 50-50 tonight, that one is the ultimate 50-50. Because Tempo and GFE both have the ability to win, and they both have the ability to lose. So it's like, what did you eat for breakfast today? That could be the difference. Oh man, I ate eggs, and so my stomach doesn't feel quite right. Well, that was dumb of you, but now you're going to lose. Like I literally feel like that's what's going to happen with that series. So I'll be watching it either way. I just feel like it's 50-50, and one of those two teams is going to win, right? And the other team isn't. It's not that Tempo is going to beat GFE or GFE is going to beat Tempo. It's going to be that the other team lost.
I just want to say that you heard it here first, folks. On Trollin HGC, it's going to come down to what King Caffeine had for breakfast that day, whether he takes his coffee black normally and he added a little sugar this day, whether he likes his eggs over easy or not. It's going to come down to that.
Yep. It's definitely coming down to that. All right. Okay, so anything else you guys want to go over?
That's all I got.
I think that's it. I think just good luck to all the teams that are in these playoff spots and are trying to fight their way up there. This is the most exciting part for me, is watching all the amateur teams go through playoffs, basically playing for a shot at their dreams to play in the HGC. So just good luck to everyone.
Yes,
well, that's
absolutely.
the thing, man. That's why we were so happy to get you on here, because you have seen these teams come from where they started and where they are now. You've seen them grow and gel and compete. So
yes, and thank you for being here. Seriously, like when Bahgz brought it up, I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Hit him up. Like, let's see if we can make it happen. And we have been lucky enough to have both you and Tetra on the last 2 weeks, which has been amazing. So thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I mean, even just to be, considered as, Tetra level, that's pretty amazing. So thanks for that.
No, you're welcome, man. Look, you guys both understand what's going on in the open division, and I think that's important. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Cool. With that, thank you all for listening to Trollin HGC, a weekly podcast about Heroes of the Storm eSports, a member of the Trolls.gg podcast network. We stream live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TrollsGG, most weeks on Wednesday following the Nexus Trolls around 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Quick programming note, we will be on Monday nights for the next few weeks as scheduling conflicts are a real thing. Next Monday, we will be on here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Twitch.tv/TrollsGG. HeroPhysio, if people wanted to find out more about you or talk to you or any of that, where can they find you?
Hey, luckily I got everything onto HeroPhysio, so that's Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Check me out. There's also a Discord channel linked in my Twitch page, so if you want to watch HGC with me, I usually tweet out when we're doing those. Come hang out. Come have a good time.
Awesome. Thank you. And Bahgz, where can people find you?
I typed it up. It's going to be so official right now. People can follow me on Twitter at @powerup_Bahgz. They can watch me stream irregularly on twitch.tv/Bahgz as well. If you guys enjoyed tonight's show and are interested in Blizzard's other esports offerings, consider subscribing to the other podcasts I do, the Weekly Blizz, where my buddy Gwaz and I cover all of Blizzard's esports offerings and can be found on all podcast sources.
Well done, my friend. Well done. All right, and you can find me. The best place to do that is on Twitter at LiQuidGG, LiQiuDGG. I have not cast much this season. I've been busy trying to get some stuff together for this show and doing some work with some other things that I have going on. But very soon now, My wife and I will be playing or streaming Heroes of the Storm and some World of Warcraft with Daz and his wife, so you'll be able to check those out. But I always tweet when I'm going live. I always tweet when the show's going live. Definitely follow me on Twitter. That's your best bet. All right. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/trollsgg. You can also donate on YouTube at youtube.me/trollsgg, or subscribe to us on Twitch, or just go ahead and cheer. All of those will deliver any funds that we get to BlizzCon swag, whether or not it's this year or next year. That is the plan for all of that. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you happen to find your podcasts online, and leave us a review. We love hearing what people think about the show. Even tweet us your reviews if you don't want to sign up that way. Maybe you like watching it live. Maybe you like watching it on YouTube. Visit our website, www.trolls.gg, to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which can be found on our YouTube channel. If you want to hang out with us and the other trolls in the community, join or type /join trolls GG in game, or you can join our Discord, trolls.gg/Discord. For announcements about the show and Heroes of the Storm eSport news, follow us on Twitter at Trollin HGC. Finally, if you need to get in touch with us, hit us up on Twitter. DMs are open, and that is the best way. Or you can email us, trollin@trolls.gg. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Peace out.